This conference will now be recorded.
I'll call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. This is the second meeting of the month for October, Sylvania Township, and today's date is October 20th. Would you call the roll, Mr. Simcoe?
Yes. Mr. Crandall,
You here?
Mr. DeWine,
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Okay,
Simcoe,
next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I'll move approval of the minutes for September 15th, a regular meeting.
So moved.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. DeWine.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the minutes for a special meeting on September 28th. I'll move approval.
Second.
Was that Mr. Mahoney?
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, call the roll. Mr. DeWine?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't present.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the October minutes for the regular meeting on October 6th of 2020. I'll move approval.
Second.
Mr. DeWine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is any additions or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Turner, do you have any?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no proposed additions or deletions from administration.
Would you also just give a quick overview of how we're conducting this meeting?
Certainly. So as always, we appreciate everybody's participation and would ask that everybody, unless they're speaking, to please place their phones or computer audio on mute, which helps improve the quality of the recording. And just a reminder that if there are any disruptive parties, the township would reserve the right after warning to remove them from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearing of the public. There are two times we hear from the public. The first time is for agenda items only, and later on the agenda, there will be time for items that are not on the agenda. So first of all, is there anyone listening that would like to be recognized for items on the agenda? Please state your name and address. Okay, hearing no one, we'll move to the zoning department. First item on the agenda for zoning is the monthly report, which Daryl has furnished us all. And let's see if there's any questions of Daryl on the monthly report. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the first item, Daryl, which is Resolution 2118. Would you go through that briefly, Daryl?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, that's a typo. The resolution number is actually 2188, not 118. So I just want to clear that up. First meeting of September, the board asked for 30 days on, what we wanted to do with medical marijuana in the township. As you know, we have a 1-year moratorium that's expiring November 5th, I believe it is. I've not heard anything, so just to play it safe, I prepared the resolution for a new 1-year moratorium unless the board wishes to direct zoning to, look into preparing some regulations on medical marijuana.
I think you gave us a heads up on this some time ago. Do you have any additional comments, Mr. Mahoney?
I don't. I'm looking forward to hearing what back from Reveille, what their opinion is with regards to this issue. But no, besides that, I do not.
Mr. Genuine?
No.
I don't know. Have you talked to Reveille, Daryl? I think you were waiting to hear back from us, correct?
Right. And if the board so directed the zoning department to look at regulations, then yeah, I would have got with Reveille on this. I mean, more than likely, we'd probably mirror what Springfield Township and others in Lucas County are doing. I kind of just felt that more than likely the board was leaning towards another moratorium, 1-year moratorium. So that's why I went that route. But we certainly don't have to approve that tonight if the board chooses not to.
Well,
That's fair.
I could, if we're going to think about a resolution, I think cultivators or processors I could understand in an industrial area, but I don't care for the retail. And I don't think there's any in Springfield or the city of Sylvania which both allow it. But personally, I don't think that sends the right message. And if you're okay with it, Neil, can we just move ahead?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion that we pass Resolution 20-188, prohibition of medical marijuana cultivators, processors, and retail dispensary establishments licensed under the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 3796, within Sylvania Township.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Next item, Daryl, is a resolution on the authorization of abatement.
Yes, resolution 20-189, authorization of abatement of vegetation and debris. This is for the property at 2344 Chancery Road.
If there's no discussion, I'll move resolution 20-189, authorization of abatement of vegetation and or debris at 2344 Chancery Road.
Second. God bless you, whoever sneezed.
Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Daryl. Let's move on to the police department. The monthly report was sent out. We've looked at it. Any questions? I assume we have Chief Long on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Chief Long on the report? Okay, if not, let's move on to the first item, which is a resolution approving a public safety dispatch services agreement with the city of Sylvania. Could you just briefly touch on it, Chief?
Sure. Sylvania City approached me. They lost or they're going to be losing a dispatcher, and they're not going to be able to fill that spot before consolidation. So they asked if we would entertain the thought of dispatching for their midnight shift only. That's the initial proposal. So they would pay us the sum that's in there for 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then they added a little thing. We tweaked it. Only in an emergency situation, which in speaking with their chief today, he really doesn't see it coming up very often, on possibly their day or afternoon shift on certain emergency times, and they would pay us an hourly rate if we were to do those shifts. But it's primarily, he doesn't envision that occurring other than an extreme circumstance if let's say, like his example was a couple of their dispatchers were quarantined for COVID or something, and he couldn't work his people double shifts every day of the week, we might have to help him out on days or afternoons a couple times, but he really doesn't envision that happening very often. So it would be an hourly rate for that. But the main crux of it is they would provide us a fee for us, or they would pay us a fee. So we would provide the midnight dispatch services. It does not require any cost of us to provide their midnight police dispatching. We can add it with our regular staffing, one police dispatcher and one fire dispatcher, and then with the 2 call takers that they also are. It's their peak times in the summer. It would add maybe 10 calls a night on the midnight shift, and that was June, July, and August numbers. Those numbers do nothing but go down during the colder months, so it would be very easy for us and be no extra cost to us whatsoever, no overtime, nothing to provide that service. So their goal was to try and keep everything in Sylvania as long as they could until such time as consolidation occurs. Their council approved it last night, and the chief wanted me to say that his council members were very thankful that we were willing to entertain this idea. Obviously, I know it's for the board to approve, but they were very grateful that we were willing to even discuss it and lend a hand for them here. So again, extra money coming in, no cost to us. We don't have to add anybody. And I also think an added benefit for our dispatchers here, prior to consolidation occurring, they have an opportunity to do it a little bit. You know, at least our midnight shift ones will be doing it for more than one jurisdiction. That just helps them. So when they do have to transition down to consolidation, they've had a chance to have a little more experience doing it on a smaller scale. So that's it. If
And
there's
I
any
think
questions.
earlier with Mr. Turner's status report, I think we all saw an outline of this. Now we have the final resolution. My only question was, has this been reviewed by the county prosecutor?
Yes, it was. It's gone back and forth. They've added a few tweaks to it. They added the out clause that Oliver suggested. So we're our staffing, we do have an out clause. So let's say for whatever reason, our staffing dips to levels that we can't provide the service anymore. We do have an out clause in there. So yes, they have reviewed it and they were instrumental in coming up with a suggestion like that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Mr. DeWine, for the chief?
No.
Neil, any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move resolution 20-177, a resolution approving providing public safety dispatch services agreement with the city of Sylvania.
Second.
Who did that, please?
DeWine.
Both of us did.
Okay, all right. I'll call the roll. Mr. Genuine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. All right, thank you. Nothing else, Chief. Thank you. And we'll move on to the administrator, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first resolution under the administrator's category is 20-178, a resolution appointing the Joint Economic Development District 1 Secretary. At this juncture and as of yesterday, the JED board has met twice virtually, and the contract between the city and the township envisions and provides for the appointment of a secretary to the JED board. And the duties of the secretary would include the keeping of the records of all board activities, functions, and operations, assisting the board with the scheduling of meetings, the organization and distribution of information, responding to records requests, and any other duties detailed within the contract or that may be requested by the board. And in front of the trustees is a resolution recommending Samantha Didion with Sylvania Township to serve in this role. The appointment of the secretary is at the pleasure of the Township Board of Trustees. And in discussing this further with the current JED board directors, there is a willingness that the JED board would reimburse the township for the wages incurred if Sammy is to be appointed to fill this role. That would come forward at a future meeting via a follow-up resolution. But glad to answer any questions the trustees may have. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no questions, I'll move resolution 2178, appointing the District 1 Secretary for the Joint Economic Development District number 1.
Second.
Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes, and Sammy, we appreciate you doing that. And Oliver, I like having some township person handling this. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 20-179, which would urge Governor DeWine to rescind Executive Order 2020-30D and the Ohio Liquor Control Commission to rescind Rule 4301-180, and that's in reference to the early closing of bars and restaurants. This is a follow-up to discussion the trustees held during the October 6th meeting, and this resolution was drafted based on the legislation approved by the city of Sylvania on the same matter. It has been reviewed by the prosecutor's office. Thank you.
Any discussion? I've looked it over. I don't know how, John, I think you suggested we do this, but boy, with the increasing deaths and cases, especially with Lucas County moving from stage 2 to stage 3, I'm a little hesitant if we're going into the fall and winter. I certainly understand the importance of small business in Sylvania, but I think the governor's got a tough job here. And I guess I thought maybe they were changing like from 10 o'clock to 11, but it sounds like they want to do away with any time limit. I guess I think I would lean toward tabling it maybe for some time, and let's see how things look toward the end of the year. But otherwise, I feel like I'm going to probably have to vote no on this. I know the governor's got a tough job, but all of the cases seem to be up for the Midwest and Ohio and Lucas County. I'm a little hesitant going into the winter when some of these facilities I think are outdoors right now. They're going to be indoors. That causes me some concern, and I think the bottom line will be if it doesn't work, it's going to put pressure on our fire department, where we've already rolled back the levy request about 20%. I don't know. John, what is your feeling?
Well, I don't think we're going to move the governor, off of his position. Obviously, he's looking at this different than I am. And I think all three of us or four of the elected officials could be looking at it differently based on our age and our conditions and things. And, I certainly want the businesses to do what they think is right and allow them to make money and continue. I do at my day job, I continue to see, restaurants and bars are hit very hard, and I just hate putting limits on them. That doesn't make too much sense to me. How you could serve somebody and sitting in the city council meeting, hearing inside the five owner and things saying, what's the difference between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock or 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock? And so it is just an arbitrary number, but I do get it. The spike is up there. The city council even brought it up. If it's level 2 or 3, is it still going to be in effect? And I think it's a symbolic gesture that we're saying, hey, we're for these businesses to make up their own rules and to go by the guidelines that they feel keep their customers safe. So again, I get it if we want to table this. It is coming at a time when certainly, you can't hear any news about anything else except COVID. So, and I think it might send the wrong message.
Well, no, I see both sides here. I really do. But I just think right now I'd be in favor of tabling this for maybe, I don't know, for December. It could be the first or second meeting in December. Hopefully we'll know more at that time. And certainly if we get the virus under control, especially this winter, I'm certainly not opposed to this. Some of these people are really struggling, and a lot of them probably aren't going to make it. I mean, I understand that part, and it's no fault of their own. How do you feel, Neil?
I can go either way. I mean, I agree with John Genowine. You know what, I feel awful for these people, and as a small business owner, I know what they're going through, and I have no problem if you want to table it. I have no problem if you want to vote for it tonight, but I do think part of me thinks I think we need to make a statement that we're in support of these business owners, and as stressed out as these guys are, or women, I can't imagine what they're going through. But I'll leave it up to you guys to whatever you want to do. We could table it or vote for it.
How would it be if we table it to the first meeting of December? Would that be all right? It looks like that would be the December 1st.
How about the second meeting of November? It'll be after the election, and we might have a different outlook on things. And again, I'm not saying the election's going to swing COVID cases, but it just might give us that time that we need to see where these cases go. Because again, I don't think you ever contain a virus.
Too. It may not be available, but we may know that something's coming. I'm okay with that. Second meeting of in fact, I'll make that motion that we table this to the second meeting of November, and I'm sure Oliver will follow up and be sure it's on our agenda. Okay, I don't hear a second to that, so let's try.
Do we have a second?
What are we seconding? To put it on a month from now's agenda?
To the second meeting of November, which would be, let me look here, the 17th. And
well, we really wouldn't need a second for that. We would just put it out there, right?
No, I thought we had to vote on the table. I don't know.
Oh.
I would think we'd have to vote to table the motion.
I believe so.
To the second meeting, or I'm sorry, the first meeting of November.
No, the second meeting of November.
Second meeting, I'm sorry, 17th. 17th.
I think we need a second on it.
Second.
Yeah, I'll call the roll of Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 20-180. Oliver, you want to give us a brief overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution has been prepared. There are three sections to the resolved component. The first is that the board concurs with guidance issued regarding the eligible use of funds for payroll expenses of public safety employees. The second is the non-exclusive list of the uses of the relief funds. And the third component outlines the amounts that would be used by fund and department. And there actually, correction, there is a fourth section as well, which notes that the administrator would be authorized to adjust the estimated expenditures and fund uses to administer the grant, achieve compliance, and respond to the pandemic. This resolution, in large part, was prepared to first document compliance and prepare for an upcoming single audit, which is likely for the use of these funds. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Turner? If not, I'll move Resolution 20-180, a resolution confirming relief fund uses for COVID-19.
Second.
Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Before you move on, Oliver, I heard the state auditor over the weekend giving a report that it's possible that some relief funds that flow from the state can be used to help small business. Are you aware of that? That's all I heard him say that, but I'm not sure that's possible.
Right. So coronavirus relief funds, for example, these funds or others that are issued to other cities, villages, townships, there is the ability to subgrant funds. The local unit would have to set up a program in order to do so, one that would be compliant with the subgranting provisions, and that could be potentially small businesses or nonprofits, even other governments as well.
Is that something we should look into? I'm asking Mr. Genowine and Mr. Mahoney. I don't know enough about it other than I didn't realize that we might be able to get some state money to help small businesses. I don't exactly know where I'm going with this, but I would think we could maybe approach the banks at CIC and see if we could do some joint effort there. What is your feeling, Neil?
That's fair. I mean, let's see before we make a decision or anything. Yeah, we could.
Oh, I'm not making a decision. In fact, this is new. I didn't realize this was even possible. What do you think, John?
I think anything we can do to help businesses in our community is a benefit to all of us. So if it's out there, let's see what we can do.
I'm wondering if we could ask Oliver to see if we could team up somehow with the local banks and maybe the city and see if we could put some program together. It's just a thought in my mind. I haven't taken it too far, but I think it would be at least worth looking into. And as I understand it, township money would be grant money. Is that right, Oliver?
Correct. So if there's a program that's set up along these lines, the township has received roughly 1.4 million. So to the extent that a program is activated and used, it would reduce the amount that is being directed to fire, police, road and service, administration, and so on. It would redirect it from reimbursements for township expenses incurred with the pandemic to the program where it's subgranted out.
Well, would you be willing to maybe talk to CIC and get back to us on maybe not your next status report, but let's say in 2 weeks or so? Just let us know. It sounds like it would affect our budget more than I thought.
Absolutely, we'll look into it and report back to the board.
Is that okay with you, Neil and John?
Yeah. Thanks, Oliver.
All right. Next item, Oliver, on the agenda.
The final item under the administrator's category is Resolution 20-191. This would be a resolution to accept and agree upon recommendations of the Healthcare Committee. There are 3 recommendations which have been put forth by the Healthcare Committee. The first would be the use of BAC, our third-party administrator, $5.50 per employee per month, with a waiving of $5 a month administrative fee for flexible spending account benefits, and the discontinuance of WageWorks for these purposes to become effective January 1st. The second is the discontinuance of using Infinisource for COBRA administration purposes. This service is already being provided by BAC. And the third would be the implementation of a patient advocacy program through QRX. And if there's specific questions about this program, Jeff Barneski from Highland is on the call as well. But just a brief overview, this program would provide for specialty medications for the cost of those to be covered instead of under the township plan. It would be covered by outside sources. QRX would receive a percentage, 15%, up to a maximum of $2,000 of the savings to the township for their services. But based on the information that has been reviewed by the healthcare committee, the savings to the township may approach $70,000 per year. Glad to answer any questions, and as noted, Mr. Barneski is on the call as well.
Any questions, Mr. Genuine?
No.
Any questions, Mr. Mahoney?
I do not.
Okay, I'll move resolution 20-191, a resolution to accept and agree upon the recommendations from the Healthcare Committee. And thanks for being on the line, Jeff.
Hey, before I second that, and Marty too, because I see Marty's on the phone. Marty, thanks for all your help with everything too. I'll second that.
Yeah, I'll call the roll. Mr. DeWine,
No.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Let's move on to the fiscal officer, Mr. Simcoe. Any questions on his monthly report? He's got a number of resolutions, and unless there's any questions, I'd like to move right to the resolutions, Dave.
That's fine. Any questions? Well, if not, then I'll call resolution 20-181, and it's accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. This is a resolution that we pass every year about this time.
Okay,
Second.
I'll move resolution 20-181.
Second.
Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And resolution 20-182, it's a request for advancement of taxes for the 2021 fiscal year. Again, this is a resolution that we pass every year, which enables us to get, obvious, just as it said, advances on the taxes collected, because otherwise we frankly wouldn't have any money to be paying our bills, because the treasurer would be just keeping that money and not sending it out until roughly 6 months afterwards. So we need this advance of taxes to help keep us afloat.
I'll move resolution 20-182.
I'll quickly second that.
Okay, Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Then we have resolution 20-183, and it's to establish a revenue account for the JED, the CareNet interest, an accident. We had a vehicle and an OPWC grant proceeds and COVID reimbursements. So we'd be establishing various funds to receive this new revenue.
If there's no questions, I'll move resolution 20-183 to establish new revenue account.
Second.
Call the roll, Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And resolution 20-184 to establish expenditure accounts for, as well as for contingency accounts pertaining to dispatch, severance pay, in the Police Fund 209, and for 2021 OPWC resurfacing project in Fund 440.
If there's no questions, I'll move resolution 20-183.
Well, that's 184, I think, John.
Oh, I'm sorry, 184, excuse me.
Second.
I will call the roll. Mr. DeWine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And resolution, I next have resolution 20-185 to transfer funds between different funds. So we need to take $88,300 from the general fund to a new fund 208 for additional leaf pickup expenses.
If there's no questions, I'll move resolution 20-185, transfer of funds.
It kills me, but I'll say second.
Was that Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DeWine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Next, I have resolution 20-186, and it's to increase appropriations for unencumbered balances for various accounts such as the leaf disposal fund 101 and newly established fund 208, which we just established for salaries, temporary worker, equipment and contracts, and also for CARE Act funding and fund 211.
Okay, I'll move resolution 20-186, township appropriation from unencumbered funds.
It kills me. I'll say yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. I'll call the roll. Mr. DeWine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And I have next resolution 20-187, and that's to transfer funds within the same funds and interfund transfers mostly in Fund 211 for COVID funding based on requirements.
I'll move resolution 20-187, transfer of appropriations.
Second.
Calling the roll, Mr. DeWine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And lastly, resolution 20-190, it's a resolution to rescind a resolution 20-089 to transfer funds from the general fund to the road and bridge fund for leaf pickup.
I'll move resolution 20-190.
It kills me, but I'll say second.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Mr. DeWine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Thank you, Dave.
That's enough.
Next item on the agenda is hearing of the public for non-agenda items. If there's anyone that would like to address the board, please state your name and address. All right, if not, we'll move on to the next item, which is open discussion and reports. We've all received a monthly report from Mr. Nash for the road department. If there's any questions for Mr. Nash, now would be the time. And if not, maybe Rob, would you briefly update us on the leaf collection?
Sure. Good evening, board. We started leaf collection Monday for the official first pass. We have had some issues with the COVID issues regarding our temporary employees, trying to keep them separate as a separate workforce. We did some mitigation by creating a different break room, creating a different bathroom, basically a whole different facility that they report to. and we're keeping them separated and isolated in their own vehicles. So we managed to work that out, but unfortunately, the agencies we're using, and we're using multiple agencies, are just not finding the employees out there that are willing to come work. There's been a lot of large distribution centers that opened up, and this is a big time of the year for seasonal help. And we're competing against $13, $14 an hour labor. So we're looking at increasing that hourly rate for our laborers as well to kind of keep pace with the workforce and just to get some in here. For example, we have one temporary laborer right now. We typically have 7 at this time. So they're working hard to get those for us, but it's going slow. We're going to increase our overtime for our full-time staff and increase the weekend work for them as well to kind of keep pace with what's going on. But we are on our first pass, and we're on track to at least do 3 pickups this year. There's no guarantee. If we don't get the help, we may look at increasing the contractor help as well. But all this comes at an additional cost. So, be prepared to see the leaf pickup costs rise this year, and significantly because of the COVID issue. Some of the costs for the rental of the break room and stuff like that as well. But as far as the season goes, the weather is cooperating. This seems to be a typical Northwest Ohio fall. And unlike last year when we had 80-degree temperatures about this time, the leaves are falling, so that's a good sign for us. Hopefully we'll get these all picked up before winter, before the snow falls. So other than that, with any specific questions, that's just a synapse of what's going on. I have did a media spot today to try and get the word out about our help, to get some word out to potential candidates that want to report to these agencies to come work for us temporarily, and for the residents to get the leaves out to the curbs as soon as possible, and are some of our issues that we're having, and to be patient with us as we move forward through the COVID issues. That's all I have.
Hey, here's just a wild thought. The asphalt plants are be closed in about 3 weeks. So a lot of the, not sure, like Miller Brothers or Gherkin or Wheeler, some of these companies that are going to be laying their people off when they close the asphalt plants. A lot of them handle equipment, trucks. Just a thought. I maybe should have brought this up before we talked tonight, but that may be an option for us to look at for a lot of these guys that are getting laid off this time of the year. Maybe they'd be interested in working a month or so and help, obviously make more money than they would be being laid off. But just my thought.
Sure, and we can certainly approach those companies and ask them, if they wanted to put something out. But at the current rate, some of the drivers or some of those laborers, if they're at scale, they typically would make more money probably on their unemployment than for the temporary period than we would offer. But I certainly have those available to the temporary agencies. That's who we would go through, or they would go through to sign up for the and find out the details of the hourly rate and all the job specifications. And they're headhunting out there for us right now. And the one specific agency has cut their rate so we could increase our hourly rate, which was Phoenix Services, and that was a one-time offer from them because of the COVID issues. And they typically provide us those 7 laborers, and we're not able to do so this year. But hopefully with the new rate, the new advertising going out, we can get those employees in here and get started.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Next item on the agenda is the fire monthly report. Is there any questions? I'm assuming Chief Ram's on the line, if there's any questions.
I'm here, John.
If not, Chief, could you just give us just a brief comment or two on the levy, how we're doing? Are you back to work, by the way? Are you still off? I'm not sure.
I started back yesterday. My surgery went well. My knee is healing. Obviously, as you get older, it takes a little longer to heal. The levy from
Don't talk to me about age.
the levy from where I'm sitting right now looks good. We really haven't had any direct opposition come out. We do still have a couple of more town halls that we'll be having on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock. And the media frenzy is going rather well, thanks to Cooper Smith Advertising, who's helping us with that. So right now, I think we're in a positive mode. I am doing a meet the candidates type thing through the chamber on Tuesday night, the 27th at Lord's. So we will be able to answer any questions that may be lingering out there from people. But I'll be honest, our committee has been awesome. We've got such a different array of people that have been willing to jump on and help us. So I think we're in good shape. But again, right now I can only say we're at 50-50. That I'm positive about. So I'm hoping to get to 51-49 and get this passed. So really, that's all I've got, John.
Okay. Any questions for Chief? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is an update regarding the board and committee appointments. These are for the external appointments. Oliver and I have went through it, and we think, well, we're not sure how to proceed, but we think we should proceed with the existing people we have. There was one opening, which was a second alternate for the Zoning Board of Appeals, but I think Daryl has said that he really doesn't think that's necessary. So, and I think, Neil, you commented something about making calls, but I think if it's all right with the board, I think it'd be good if Oliver just follows up with everybody to be sure they're willing to continue, and then we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, no,
Does that
that's
sound
fine.
all right?
No, that's fine. The only thing I feel bad about is SCAT. I mean, other than me supporting it financially, I've been to so little meetings, and I feel terrible. I just, timing wise, I just can't. It's, the nights of the meetings, I always have a conflict, and I feel so guilty. I try to support it financially, but if there's somebody if looking forward, if there's somebody maybe not an elected official that would be interested in holding an appointment there, I think I would be like really happy to help. I feel awful I've not been able to make those meetings, but like I said, financially I've helped out, but I feel bad that I can't make those meetings. That'd be the only.
I think what you're suggesting there, Neil, and I hadn't thought about it, to move that to maybe an external appointment. I'll follow up with SCAT, see if that's possible, rather than a board member.
Yeah,
that's
I feel awful. I can't make those meetings. Just Thursday nights is normally a bad night for me to work. So I normally put a lot of hours in Thursday nights. I just can't.
I'll have Oliver follow up with the external appointments, and we'll get back to you. And I'll follow up with SCAT if that could be a non-elected official.
Okay, very good. Yep, that's awesome. Thanks.
Any comments, Mr. Genuine?
No.
All right. Next is, I think Oliver's got here a date for the next meeting, which is November 3rd, election date. Correct, Oliver?
Correct, Mr. Chair. The next meeting, if it follows the first and third Tuesday lineup would fall on election day.
I would think maybe we want to change that, but what do you think, Mr. Genuine?
Don't we normally have it on the day after?
Well, I think we could do I think you might be right.
I think we've traditionally
maybe we
moved
have-
it from the election day to the day after. John's right. John Genuine's right on that. We've traditionally done that.
Oh, we would move it to Wednesday, the 4th.
Yes.
And then our second meeting would be Tuesday, the 17th. Is that all right with you, Mr. Mahoney?
Yeah, sure.
And that's okay with you, right, Mr. Genuine?
Yes.
Okay. That gives us a direction. Are there any other reports or comments that you might have, Mr. Mahoney?
I do not. Thank you, though.
Mr. Genuine?
Nope.
Mr. Simcoe? You've
Well,
already had a big part of the agenda, so keep it
Yeah.
short.
I think that we have to ask to make sure that Oliver gets it out on the internet that we moved our meeting from the.
Oh, sure. He'll
the-
follow up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a
good.
motion to adjourn at 5:52.
Second?
Mr. Genuine,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes, thanks, everybody. See you
We are-
later. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.